Hi again. For today's video of the day, we'll be speaking with Costa Koulisakis, who is a co-owner of Moon by SimAudio. Moon is a line that SimAudio has introduced about 10 years ago, and while not exactly at the low end of the audio scale, they do have an all-in-one component that, without a pair of speakers, runs for about 4,000 Canadian and is a very good entry-level audiophile setup. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what that sounds like. So I think we'll jump right in and maybe have you give us a little bit of a history of the company. One of the things I'm curious about is, as we were talking about earlier, that you're the third owners of the company since it started, I guess, 40 years ago, roughly. So perhaps you can talk a little bit about how the company has changed as it's sort of gone through from the beginning to where it is now.
Thank you, John. Yes, the company was founded in 1980 by Victor Sima, and that is where the name SimAudio comes from. Back then, of course, the trends and styles of music and how people listen to music was different than it is today. The company was very successful back then, manufacturing amps and preamps and integrated amplifiers and all of that. Victor Sima retired and sold the company in the early 1990s to Jean Poulin, who was both a supplier and an employee at the same time. And Jean bought the company, took over management, and grew it exponentially until he retired in 2013 and looked into his own team to see who would be the next generation of owners. And that would be myself and my two partners, Louis Lemire and Thierry Dufour.
And how do you see the company, I guess, obviously, like you say, the listening experience, everything's changed. There's been a lot of change, but are there some core values or philosophies that, have kind of driven the company from the start, or would you say?
Yes, indeed there are. In fact, the core values are deeply ingrained into our company culture. What we strive to do more than anything else through scientific means is to transmit the emotional content, the emotional intent of the musician to the listener. And although this may sound like a very superfluous and a very difficult to define parameter, in reality it's not. Through science and specifications, careful listening, advancements in technologies, dedication and persistence, it is possible. And we have seen many cases today with a Moon music system, and not just a Moon music system, many other high performance systems from other manufacturers as well. We have seen such systems being able to deliver tears to the listener's eyes, which shows that they transmit something more than just the superficial sounds of music.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of the higher res stuff myself. So it's interesting to see, though, that a lot of the manufacturers, I mean, you do manufacture CD players, but like many people I've seen at the festival, your display system doesn't have one. You're working strictly with a network system where you have, I guess, some music on a server, and you also have the ability to stream from other sources. Or do you use any streaming sources from here?
In the old days, we used to haul with us a giant box full of compact discs, of course, and lay them all out on the floor or on a table and just change CDs all the time. Today, what we do is, correctly, we stream music. We have all of our music stored on a NAS drive, which is tucked away behind the display over there. And everything is being streamed to the Moon music system through our dedicated streamer, which is called Mind, which stands for Moon Intelligent Network Device. And we could stream any format at any resolution. We can also stream through music services such as Tidal, Qobuz, Deezer, and so on.
What's your kind of view, though, with respect to the sort of streaming world these days? I mean, we have to sort of accept it as it is, but do you feel that what you do is trying to also be responsible to the musicians who make this music for us? Do you feel that there's any kind of responsibility to try and encourage people to hear, to realize that the music is probably best in their own hands, whether it's a hard media or soft? Is that sort of something that you're thinking about, or do you feel that the streaming model is a good one? That's, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first and foremost, we feel that we owe the musicians and their music a respect, in that we need to transmit what they have created with as much fidelity as possible to the listener. There's many different formats by which that can be done. That could be done through streaming, of course, and in high resolution or 24-bit streaming, it can get even better. It can be done through vinyl, through record playback, which has enjoyed a tremendous resurgence in the last decade and more. It can also be done through the compact disc as well, which, although by today's standards it's viewed as limited to 16-bit, there's a lot of really well-mastered CDs out there.
So one of the things that I'm also wondering is, does your equipment have some kind of signature? I mean, if you play various pieces of equipment across your product line, beside some other manufacturer's stuff, is there a signature that you can recognize, like a Moon product?
Generally speaking, yes, there is. And this is where, more than anything else, the fun factor kicks in with high-end audio, because it's a little bit like cars, for example. Can one say that a Rolls-Royce is better than a Ferrari?
Yeah.
They're two wildly different vehicles, designed and built in a very different way, targeting two different profiles of customer. And the same thing exists in the world of high-end audio. You have people that embrace a certain type of sound because that is what they enjoy. So they seek to find high-end audio products that play music with those qualities. And then there's a different camp. There's multiple different camps in that. The sonic signature with Moon products, what we aim for more than anything else, is a lack of a signature. Now that in itself is, due to technological limitations, is not possible to achieve. There is always a little bit of a sonic signature, but what we aim for is a little bit like what I said before, extreme dynamics, or without dynamic compression, extended frequency response at both extremes to reproduce bass tightly, tunefully, reproduce high frequencies like cymbals and the ambience of a recording environment with all of the natural decay and the reverb that exists in that venue. Voices to be harmonically accurate, not overly in your face, forward if the recording wasn't done that way, not overly recessed either at the same time, somewhere down the middle with just the right amount of harmonic richness to accurately depict how the recording was made. So what we aim for is transparency and accuracy more than anything else. Do we achieve it? We believe we are quite good at it. Are we there 100%? No, we're not, in the same way that nobody else is 100% at their target either.
But it makes me think about, I'm not sure if you're familiar with ECM Records, a German record label, one of the most innovative of the last 50 years. And one of the things about their recordings, and one of the reasons why I often use them as samples, is the fact that you can hear a note from the moment it's played to its final decay into silence. But as important as it is that this is captured onto CD or vinyl or whatever, is a system that can actually also reproduce that. And that's one of the things I listen for, and it's one of the things that I'm, that's a defining point for me, is I need to be able to hear everything with the real clarity, and to hear the full breadth of a note. And I don't know if everybody manages to do that.
There may be, and there probably are, brands out there that strive to give you a particular type of sound, perhaps at the expense of the qualities that you state, certainly. But there's also people that like that sound.
That's
so
true.
They know their market, and that is what they strive to achieve. What you mentioned a moment ago about producing and reproducing sound, those are two very, very different things. And this is another area where we try to explain and to educate people in general, in that in a recording venue, you're striving to produce a sound. What you use to produce that sound, it's not a question of right or wrong, better or worse, it's whatever it takes to produce the sound the way you like it. Then when you want to play it back, It's a whole different set of parameters and goals to try to reproduce that sound as accurately as possible. And for that reason as well, we strive to voice our products the way we do in order to capture that with as much accuracy as we can.
So what we're now going to do is have a brief listening session. And since you're using a network server, what we're going to listen to is something that you had on there that's from one of my favorite guys from Norway, pianist Jan Gunnar Hoff, his album Quiet Winter Night, which is an album that features Jan, but also includes double bassist Errol Anderson, who's one of the country's most well-known and experienced bassists, and a younger trumpeter named Matthias Eich, who has become increasingly popular through a series of albums on ECM Records. There are also a number of singers who participate on the recording, and it's called Quiet Winter Night, and I think the whole album epitomizes exactly that title. So, on our next video of the day, we'll be looking at Bryston, a Canadian company that manufactures full systems. So I'll be really looking forward to see what Bryston has to offer in terms of a complete system.